Welcome to the Business of Beer with Daddy Porter. This is my new vlog series where I am I am talking to people in the industry, the beer industry, about what the business layout looks like right now, what's going on as far as the breweries. So today we're going to take a deep dive into Wisconsin breweries. I am Wisconsin-based beer vlogger, as many of you know. So many of the people that I correspond with and talk to a lot are and drink a lot of beer with are in Madison, Wisconsin, or they're around there. This afternoon, I'm having an Amber Gaddon from Ale Asylum, which is obviously one of our big ones here in Wisconsin. So we'll be touching on them. But I'm here with two people who work at the Brewers Guild here in Wisconsin. So they're going to tell us everything about what the Brewers Guild does, because I'm not sure people really know fully what your Brewers Guild does, what they offer to your breweries, what they offer to you. So this is why I'm excited to have them here today. So without further ado and me stumbling over my words, I'm going to have a sip of beer here and introduce you to Mark and Rebecca from the Wisconsin Brewers Guild.
Hey.
Hello.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Right back at you, buddy.
My beer's coming. It's being poured right now.
All right. You got a beer?
She has her own staff of servants.
I do.
Yeah, I was going to say.
My husband.
We're familiar with him around these parts, I believe.
Yeah.
Another event that I'm familiar with is what I have as my green screen here. One of my favorite brew fests in the state. Period. But we're going to get to that in a second here. But I just want to welcome you guys. Thank you for coming on and at least again sharing your experience and also sharing what you. Ooh.
Nordic Sunrise.
Yes, third space. Look at that. You got the glass going and everything. It's beautiful.
I know.
We spoke to Carrie a couple of weeks ago about third space and what they're doing, and it just looks fantastic. I'm just in Madison, so it's kind of too far to, just for curbside beer, it's too far. But they're really looking like they're doing well out there. So
yeah, they're super innovative, super progressive, just family. They're a family, and I'm super impressed by them all the time. I mean, I hear Carrie having his meetings, and they're just constantly doing stuff, and I mean that's the only way to be right now.
It's true. So let's go back to, I don't know who wants to field this question, but where did the Brewers, who founded it, where did it start, and how long has it been going?
So the current Wisconsin Brewers Guild was it was 1997 actually when it was first started in February of '97, and it was Deb Carey from New Glarus Brewing Company. David Bookstaff, at the time it was JT Whitney's, it's now Vintage on Whitney Way, and then Fred Gray from Gray Brewing Company were the three people on the Articles of Incorporation. So in that regard, Wisconsin Brewers Guild's I don't like to say oldest because 1997 doesn't seem that old, but it's the fourth longest tenured Brewers Guild in the country. And the top four are like California, Colorado, Wisconsin, and I want to say Michigan, all pretty close together. We actually had a predecessor organization, so it was not uncommon during the late 1800s and early 1900s that there were brewers associations. And the farthest back I can find was 1901, where there was a Wisconsin State Brewers Association. And it actually existed all the way up until 2006, but for that period from 97 until 2006, I don't think anybody knew it existed or what it did, but basically the guilds or the associations are trade associations for industry, common industries. So they get together to talk about issues that are important for the industry, talk about advocacy issues, and certainly because we make beer, which is an alcoholic beverage, there are a lot of regulatory issues. So we basically try to promote, protect, and advocate for independent craft breweries in Wisconsin.
And I actually know, because I am in Wisconsin, so I've seen you guys work. But how does that look sometimes? My question is kind of based around A couple years ago, Mark, I know you were very outspoken and very talking about that they were, and when I mean by they, I mean our legislator was trying to force some anti-craft beer legislation in on a bill in the last minute without having any committee or any common public um, conversation about that. I before you answer my question, I want to make sure that I categorize that right, but there was some. Are you guys are? My point is that you guys are ready to be an advocate or an outspoken person for the brewers at whole when it comes to stuff like this.
It's pretty accurate description. So I think the Brewers Guild was formed largely because small brewers didn't have a seat at the table when we were talking about issues that affected the industry. So if you're thinking 1997, that's around the time where Sprecher and Lakefront and New Glarus was relatively new, but they were still only about 10, 15 years old at the time. So they didn't really have a lot of clout. So when most people thought of the brewing industry, they thought of Pabst and Schlitz and Blatz and Miller and all, like nobody really put much thought into these small brewers that were making really bitter beers and very dark porters and stouts. It just wasn't part of the mainstream. But fast forwarding to what you're talking about in terms of why the importance of that founding of the Brewers Guild, and then the growth of the organization and what it stands for became very much more important, because we still often find that we don't always have a seat at the table. That's changed. I think we've organized in a way that has been very effective. But what frequently would happen is that there would be legislative initiatives taken by other members of the industry, is how we refer to them, as industry members, that didn't include us and didn't really have a full understanding of the craft beer world and sector and how our businesses operated. So we still find ourselves often trying to fight for, like, hey, we have some input that's very important, because often we end up being on the receiving end of unintended consequences. So,
Mm-hmm. So
I like being referred to as outspoken. Thank you.
Well, on that issue, you very much were, and you galvanized the troops. And I was on Twitter screaming and hollering about it to my three people that follow me. But I mean,
I was one of them.
That was a time that I really saw you guys actually publicly move in an aggressive manner, as far as being very opinionated about what the hell was going on, basically. So, my experience with you guys was generally, you guys are, how I saw it as a craft beer person just coming in, is that you guys were, representative and stuff like that. But I really never really heard you. But when that went down, I heard you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes great. It makes perfect sense. And I think the challenge that, like, if you think of Wisconsin, you think about beer, you think about cheese, you think about brats. Wisconsin actually has taken very proactive measures in promoting Wisconsin as a dairy state and as a cheese state. We didn't have to work really hard to promote it as a beer state. But one of the other visions of founding the Brewers Guild was to promote Wisconsin beer, to make ourselves more accessible in terms of our voices. So, and promoting local independent businesses, just like local independent cheesemakers. And if you think about the craft beer world and how it's grown, the cheesemakers in Wisconsin actually set a pretty good template for us. So one of our goals was to kind of mimic that. And that's where, since 2014, I think I was the first full-time executive director for the Brewers Guild, and Brewers Guilds around the country were also bringing on staff. But now we finally gotten to the point where we have a voice, and our voice is sometimes a little too concentrated in that regulatory legislative world. Mm-hmm. So we now have Rebecca, who can kind of bring us back home to part of the original intent. A major focus of the intent was promoting Wisconsin beer.
Mm-hmm. 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 And you guys have, you guys definitely have some events a year round that help do this. One of my I'm not gonna skip. I want to. I really want to. But okay. So how does your support look in a pandemic? because I don't, again, this is a time frame actually where I really don't hear you guys, and I'm not hearing you. So just because I'm not hearing you and I don't hear you, clearly doesn't mean you're not working, and clearly doesn't mean that like stuff's not going on. And usually what it means, especially when an organization is maybe a front forward one, or one that is like out there like you guys are, kind of, that usually means you're working on something. So I'm not sure where my question is going here, but how does your work look during a time like this, which is unprecedented, and we have so much kind of widespread chaos going on?
I mean, I'll start. It's been really crazy because, we are, like, Mark and I are staff for the board, and the board is made up of brewery employees, owners, brewers, and they're all spiraling and trying to figure out how to stop the bleeding. So we've been really trying to be very sensitive to that and not ask them to do a ton. We've gotten together and had meetings and talked about ideas, and we also had to I know you want to talk about events. We had 3 big events that happened at the beginning of the year, and we had to very quickly figure out, can we do these events responsibly? Are the breweries going to be available? All these things started happening, and we had to cancel all 3 of our events, which are only one of our largest fundraising opportunities besides membership. So as an event person, I was like, wah! I mean, I did not know what to do. And all we could do was come together and, vote on it and follow the CDC health and safety guidelines ultimately, because what we care about the most is safety of, the breweries and customers coming to the festivals. And it was not an easy decision, and we were all afraid to make the decision, but knew that it had to be made. And most of the people that received the cancellation information understood. Some people didn't. I mean, you can't please everyone. But we've been kind of dealing with those things, like canceling events and figuring out, can we do other events when, the switch is flipped. But it's been tough. And the only thing that I can do, that I can control right now, is social media, because, I haven't really been going out too much. And, I've been making videos like crazy, like sharing a year in beer with Wisconsin, which has been really fun. Just trying to highlight, the breweries, what they're doing.
Is that on your
It's on
YouTube?
Facebook, and I did an IGTV. So it's out there, and it was really fun to make, and it was very emotional for me to make, because it was sort of my year with the guild. But it needed to be done. It was just like, this needs to be out there, There's some good people working really hard, that we want it to be top of mind for people that are out there shopping.
Yeah, and my friend, I did a My Friend show about 3 weeks ago. His name is Chris Sands. He's a big vlogger. You probably don't know him. He's a big vlogger out in Maryland. But he really put me on your screen, because I asked him, and I'm going to ask you guys later, but I asked him, how can we support our breweries and all that? And he's like, well, one thing that people don't talk about is supporting our brewers guilds. And he went on to explain about how brewers guilds support breweries. And I knew all this, but the way he laid it out, sometimes you know things, but sometimes that person, you have to have that spark in your head, or that person, someone has to just tell you, lay it out. Well, he laid it out on that podcast, and he's just like, they do these events that ultimately help the brewers, and they don't have their events just like everybody else. So they are struggling too. And I was like, oh yeah. So I didn't really put those together, because now we're at Rebecca. Now it's absolutely your turn to talk now for sure. Because I really wanted to talk during this thing and accent the wonderful events that you guys do that ultimately help support the breweries. And one of them is I put is my green screen here, which is the Dell's Rare Barrel Affair. This is I can't say enough about how awesome this small event is. I haven't been to the barn, so I haven't had that experience. But I was at Mount Olympus when we were there. You guys we were there that 1 year or 2 years. And it was so beautiful. It was fantastic. It was like I felt like I was under a roller coaster. You guys supplied food. You guys supplied timely, good, snack, handable food. We didn't have to pay for it. It was involved. It was in the cost. You guys had nice bathrooms. I mean, the whole experience was, it was just fantastic. You used to, you guys are obviously great taste in the Midwest. I know Mark is obviously. I don't even have to go there with that guy, but you guys are familiar with that, and that's just a big, robust, wonderful event. But the Dell's Barrel Fair is just, to me, it's almost the complete opposite. It's a fantastic, wonderful event, but it's so small that you can just really walk around, not worry about getting to all the beers, not worry about everybody. It's just a fantastic event. So that's the one I wanted to start with. I don't know if you wanted to. Did I get anything wrong? And
no.
About,
I mean, the history of it. I mean, Mark could probably speak to the history of it more than I can.
Sure.
But it's one of those events that, I mean, there's so many beer festivals that are huge, and there's so much going on. It's really nice to have something like this that it is more of an affair, and it's smaller, and the beers, you get to chat with people a little bit more about the beer, and people are there for the beer, not as much to just get shit-faced, and that is super valuable to our brewers, and it's valuable to us. But I mean, Mark was there when it was sort of created and what the original vision was, and I think they've stayed pretty true to that vision. And the barn is so badass. I mean, it's so beautiful. It adds so much. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So you referenced the Mount Olympus year, which was, I can't remember if that was the first year or the second year, but I'll just say that I appreciated that we had help from the folks at the Dell's Convention and Visitors Bureau to put this event on. But I'll admit that Mount Olympus really wasn't on my list of venues that I envisioned for this event. So the vision was something to kind of bring us back to what beer festivals really originally were. They were about the brewer and the beer. And somewhere along the line, they just became carbon copy events where it really, the true intent of the festival was kind of lost. And that's not to say that there aren't beer festivals out there that do it right. There are a lot of them that do a very good job. But I think that event was about bringing it back to the beer and the brewers themselves, and the experience and the intimacy, and just feeling like you're not distracted by a circus, right? So naturally we show up at this place that has roller coasters in the background, and we got really lucky and had incredible weather that day.
It was great.
It was, but we didn't get so lucky a few other years, but fortunately we were in this beautiful, they refer to them as wedding barns, but the Swan Barn door in Wisconsin Dells. And it has these gorgeous, gorgeous, like tree root chandeliers. It was exactly the kind of environment that we kind of envisioned for this type of event. So you have all these rare beers, and the brewers themselves there, that's always been the goal. Like originally brewers were always at beer festivals representing their beer. We don't have that as much, so you don't get those opportunities to see brewers interacting with each other. I think that's something that we really wanted to bring a little of that character back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mark. When my first couple of brew fests, what I was grabbed about was the camaraderie between the brewers and how they really seemed to get along. I thought it was going to be more like, you know what I mean? Like, especially the ones that are close. Like, we're down here in Madison, and we got now Giant Jones, and we got Working Draft, and up the street is Oso, and right across the street is Parched Eagle, and up the street is the Malt House, and all these guys are like this. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Well, I mean, it's kind of goes, but there's something there.
Oh yeah,
sure. It kind of goes back to when Brewers Guilds were founded around the country, and then the National Brewers Association is like, we were all these voices in the woods. Like nobody was really paying attention to the beers that we were making and taking them seriously, but there wasn't anything new about it. These were largely European traditions and beers from that people around the world knew and recognized. They just didn't become accustomed to them. So we were lonely voices in the woods, and those lonely voices have a tendency of finding each other, and it builds this industry where it doesn't feel like it's an industry. It feels like it's more of a common cause, to bring better beer to the United States, and the success that to me tells you that camaraderie, that feeling of collaboration and cooperation can make you so much more successful than the fights where you're beating up against each other. And I mean, we've truly revolutionized the beer world here in the United States. This is a little bit, I don't know. I have this little chart that I make, like that I keep updating it, of the historical record of all the breweries that existed in the state of Wisconsin and like, you don't have to look at that too hard to know that what we've accomplished. Like you look right over here, we changed the beer world in this country, and that's just Wisconsin right there on that chart.
Well, and I think too, like the family mentality started with some of the OGs around here, like some of these old school breweries that got started back in the day, like Russ, Klish. I mean, these guys would do anything for each other, and they were always there to help any brewery that wanted to get started. They sort of set the tone, in my opinion, for, this collaboration and this neighbors helping neighbors. And, then all the younger breweries that opened up following them had this great guide of how to be, and we help each other. And so I think it started with some of these, older breweries that have been around a long time. And I know that the younger breweries are very thankful for that.
Yeah, they absolutely should be. Were you going to say, Mark?
No, I'd say Rebecca nailed it.
Okay, great. I have a question from the audience here. How do the state guilds relate to the Brewers Association? And I think Joel means the broader national one.
Yeah. So the Brewers Association, of course, is the national association that advocates for independent craft breweries at the federal level mostly. There's not a formal relationship between the state brewers guilds around the country and the National Brewers Association, but there are very close collaborative ties. It's sort of like the beer industry itself. So the Brewers Association does provide a lot of resources for state brewers guilds. They provide grant funding for some states that don't have the resources to have brewers guilds in their state. So, like states like Wyoming are examples where they don't have as many people there. They don't have as many breweries, so they need a little bit more support. So the Brewers Association is very good about making sure that every state has a strong, unified state brewers guild. And we sort of assist them in being a frontline observer of what's going on in our states, because quite often you'll see legislative initiatives come up in one state and it's not unique. There's a coordinated effort. So we we develop a lot of really strong friendships and relationships among other brewers guilds. My most heartbreaking thing this year with the COVID situation is that Craft Brewers Conference was canceled, which meant I didn't get to go see all my state Brewers Guild colleagues because we just lean on each other so much. And we've all just become close, dear friends. And the Brewers Association is that umbrella and provides that baseline for us to make sure that we remain strong. It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. The other thing that I want to mention about the Brewers Association is they come up with campaigns to get everyone sort of like banded together, digital assets, video ideas, branding, all these things that we use as a guild, but then we also can share with all of our breweries, because content is a really hard thing to like come up with something every single day, or a couple times a week, whatever you can do, and having these really beautiful designed assets and artwork that they provide, that they pay for, that's no cost to us or our members. It's priceless to have that. And so that's something else we're always trying to share, what the Brewers Association is doing, what's available for our brewers, so that everyone has access to, things like that can just really, help out when you're trying to create advertising and content.
Wow. National leadership. Look what it can do. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. So we have a couple more we have some comments now. This is our friend Fred Swanson. No judgment, Rebecca, but he really finds Mark passionate and dreamy. Mostly dreamy.
Your check is in the mail, Fred.
And Fred slips this one in here. These three are good for the industry. Well, thanks, Fred, but these two are more. Come on, Fred.
Thanks,
Fred is
Fred.
too. I love that, man. He's been a little bit of a mentor to me too, so I appreciate that, Fred.
Yeah, thanks, Fred.
Yes, and Fred has been nice enough to come on this show to talk about the things that he does, which is you guys already know. It's fantastic. So
Yeah.
we're going to get to. I want to get to now. You guys have listed on your page 3 events. I've been to the one and I was loving it, and I was due for this year, but didn't happen. So who wants to tell me about the Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival, because I've never been?
I'll start, but it's another one that Mark was here and aware of like how it originated. But both the Dell's Rear Barrel Affair and Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival, we partner with local CVBs, Convention and Visitor Bureaus. They kind of basically we partner together with them. They are sponsors and provide us with marketing, and we're bringing people to the area, so it's for tourism. And so for Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival, we partner with Glendale, Welcome to Glendale, and Bayshore. They're just going by Bayshore right now, but it was previously Bayshore Town Center, and it's kind of an outdoor strip mall. So the festival is outside, and it's in this really beautiful, even though it's a mall, it's beautiful mall, and it's kind of in a U shape, and there's this green space in the middle, and it's another kind of low-key festival. It's not a crazy, 6,000 person event. It's more like a 1,500, 2,000 person event. And we have food and beer, and there's music, and it's been going on. This would have been 11 years, Mark?
I should know the answer to that, but
it's 11.
It just feels
last
like
year was 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. So last
right.
year I got hired like 2 weeks before the festival, and everyone's like, go.
I love it.
Yeah, but Mark could probably speak to it a little bit more, just as far as he's been with the guild longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jeff Hamilton at Sprecher Brewing Company. That's in Glendale, obviously. So Jeff was kind of the motivating force behind bringing this event to Glendale, and it's become sort of our signature event where beer and food. You referenced the food component of the Dell's event. The progenitor to that was the Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival. So the idea was that we love quality, the good things in life here in Wisconsin. Beer and food. Beer is food. It's meant to be enjoyed together. So part of the vision of that event was to pair up local food vendors with breweries. So you would sample a beer and then sample a food that pairs well with it. That gets harder over time, just because the nature of the restaurant business and is pretty fickle. But the model, I really, it's an endearing kind of a place when you're there. When you first walk up and you're ready to set up this event, you wonder how on earth could anyone envision a beer festival in this area. But the folks at Bayshore have been outstanding partners, and they transformed this mall into this really cool space for beer and food pairings. And the whole time the mall is still open to the public, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So it's a unique Wisconsin experience. And this Welcome to Glendale and Bayshore Town Center, Bayshore Mall have been very good partners to work with for that event.
And last year,
and then every year we have our annual meeting as well. The brewers gather the night before, and we do an annual meeting. And just a celebration of us as an industry. And there may be a little bit of tomfoolery that happens the night before the event at Sprecher Brewing Company, but it's all in good fun. And we just kind of celebrate the industry once a year.
I was just going to say, last year it was really cold for the festival, and it was so great that it was in the middle of a mall, because everyone was running to all the different stores and buying like hoodies and fleece, and the mall was probably super thrilled with it. because I think Drink Wisconsin ran out of all their hoodies. They had a little like truck set up, and they ran out because it was just like, I don't think it was super cold, but it was just like 50 and breezy, and everyone was just like,
it was, yeah, it was chill. It was the middle of June too. Like, it was just unseasonably cool, but it was still a good day.
No, it was a great day.
Well, and for the people who and actually I'm one of them, I think I know, but for people who are unfamiliar with Wisconsin geography, where is Bayshore?
It's right outside of Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, so Glendale's just north. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like on the way to Green Bay.
Just a little bit north.
Yeah.
Okay. So then
it's stone's throw from Sprecher Brewing Company.
Yeah.
So I am not mistaken though. You guys used to have a festival up north, didn't you?
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
True. Ice Cold Beer Fest. That was not originally a Wisconsin Brewers Guild event. That was a locally organized event, and unique as all get out, because it was a beer festival in the dead of winter inside a tent,
right,
that was heated. Right. So you'd be inside this, in Minocqua, and you'd be inside this tent, and like people are all, garbed up in their winter clothes, and inside they're like just shedding all of their, like it's like toasty warm in there. And it was a really, really unique event, but largely organized by the brewers in the northern part of the state. Like Bo Belanger from South Shore Brewery in Ashland worked his tail off for that event. The folks at Minocqua Brewing Company, Angry Minnow up there, those guys were really the cheerleaders behind that event. And the goal was to make it a northern Wisconsin event, but it became pretty clear over time that the beneficiary of that event, which was Dr. Kate Hospice, kind of deserved to have the full benefit. It's a great cause. It's largely organized by locals. We still support that event as much as we can, and I do. Maybe someday we could resurrect something like that. But in the dead of winter, it's really hard to orient, especially up north, when you don't know what the weather is going to be like. I mean, there was one year it was 8 degrees outside, and we're all like 75 and toasty inside drinking beer.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of heat to pump inside of a tent. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, the last event that you guys have that I kind of want to touch on is the Wisconsin Brewers Guild Technical Conference. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here, but as I look at these events here, I see 2 that are open to the public and 1 that's not.
The tech conference is, I guess it technically is open to the public. We market it to beer peeps. You don't have to be a member to come. You don't have to be a brewery employee to come, but that's who we kind of market it to, because the talks are going to be pretty specific to the beer industry. This year, I'm so bummed. Like, my background is sales and marketing, and I have been lucky enough to have an incredible sales trainer through Mini USA. My background comes from Mini Cooper cars. One of my backgrounds, and like so much has happened. But he was going to come and speak, and his ability to train people on listening and just sales in general is just insanely cool, and it stuck with me forever, and it changed me, and I just couldn't wait for people to hear him. And especially in the beer industry, I feel like sales is so important, and I can't really speak to this because I'm not a brewer and I haven't opened a brewery, but I've had a business, and sales is a huge part of any business, and having a well-trained sales team is so important, and to have the right people in sales, the people that are just people. They like people, and they like chatting, and they like talking, but they're also detail oriented, and they follow through and listening. And so this tech conference was really going to be my first event that I organized for the Guild. And I was bringing in a lot of things that mean a lot to me. And so there was going to be a sales focus. There was going to be another speaker that was going to talk about finance, so that when breweries start making money, what to do, how to invest that money, just all these different topics. And then we were going to have a panel that was going to talk about ingredients, hops and malts. And it's just such a bummer, because I was so excited to hear these speakers personally. But that one, it is open to the public, but it's more for the beer industry. And Badger State Brewing is where we've had it. We had it not last year, but the year before, I think. So they
Year
offer,
before.
yeah, they offer the brewery, and then we kind of hang around Green Bay and bounce around, and we were going to have mobile axe throwing, and there was going to be so many things.
And no,
That event, unfortunately. Oh, sorry, Greg.
no. I was just going to say to Rebecca, no worries. We got 2021. This thing is going to keep us down. It's going to keep us down at some point, but we're going to spring back. It's not going to be as quick, I don't think, as everybody wants. But Rebecca, you're going to have your say. You're going to have your input. It's going to happen. I know you already know it, but I'm really even more excited to see what's going to happen once you really get into it. What are you going to say, Mark?
No, I mean that tech conference is, in a way, is a little bit cursed, because many years ago there was a version of it that was set for Madison, and it was right around the time, or it was right in the time of the Act 10 protests. So there was a whole there was a whole part of that was set up for homebrewers too. So in Madison, of course, as you know, Greg, is rich with a very active group of homebrewers. So the whole thing basically got canceled because there was a swarm of people that came out for the Act 10 protests. Wow. And then 2 years ago, there were other legislative issues that just kind of overtook us, and we really couldn't pull off a conference. So, but I'd like to think that helped us bring Rebecca aboard too. So.
Oh, look at that. So,
Greg, are you a home brewer? Like, what's your relationship with beer?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I am well, as my story goes, but I'm not here to tell it. But Rebecca just turned the
I want to know.
I am never here to tell my story. Stop. No, the long story short is I became a beer blogger because I am an at-home dad, and I want to be in the industry after I'm done homeschooling and doing all the things that I do. My boys are teenagers, so 16 and 14. So I still got a couple years here, and I'm just building my resume, trying to learn. This is the first time I'll probably say it publicly, but I'm looking to go to Siebel Institute this fall to learn brewing on a professional level. No, I don't want to brew, but I want to learn it on a professional level. I want to know everything that there is, so that'll help me with my Cicerone and my beer. I'm aspiring beer judge too, so that'll help me there. So I'm just trying to be a big, well-rounded beer guy, so that one of these wonderful breweries will scoop me up in a couple years.
Cool. Nice.
So that's where I'm at, and I'm using this as a learning tool and as a motivation. As far as I always say, and people don't understand or get it, but I really don't like being behind the camera like this. Every morning I wake up and I have an interview. I'm nervous. I was nervous this morning. I was nervous to talk to you guys, but it really helps me get me out of my comfort zone, especially during this pandemic where I just want to crawl up in my bed under my covers and, well, not cry, but sit there all day and drink beer, I guess, or not. It's the world, you know what I'm saying? And so this is face the world a little bit. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was smart to a while back is that I, especially during that time when I went to the this wonderful brew fest here, I joined up as a member, and I don't think people know this, and the only reason I knew it is because I went to your website, and I think, is that where I ordered the tickets? I'm not sure, but I got to your website because because you guys were putting it on. So when I was there, I was like, oh, just clicking around, and I was like, oh, you can be so you can be a member of this without being a brewer. Right. So I wanted you guys to explain that.
Yeah, we essentially. Go ahead. No, Mark, you go.
No. I mean, many years ago, they started up this program. It's actually kind of modeled on Washington State has what they called Wobbles, Washington Beer Lovers. So naturally, the flip of Wobble would be Wibble. So we created Wisconsin Beer Lovers, and that's an enthusiast membership in Wisconsin Brewers Guild where you can bounce around from brewery to brewery and get discounts on merch and beer at those places, and then discounts on tickets as well. That program we're going to have to breathe some life into that. It's going to be a little bit hard right now because we're not out all visiting breweries. Beer festivals are going to be gone for the foreseeable future. So But we have some, this is where Rebecca and I probably spend a little bit more of our time now, is we actually, in the blessing in disguise and all of this is that we can take a step back, take a deep breath, reevaluate, what our programming looks like and how we engage more with beer lovers in Wisconsin. Because we've been so heavily focused on brewery advocacy, beer promotion, but we've kind of forgotten that our customers are beer lovers in Wisconsin, and we need to re-engage with those. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of the Wisconsin beer lover membership getting a little love and an injection of some energy. Again, it's we most of our fundraising was predicated on the ideas that we would do events, and we're going to have to get really creative with events now. So, and I think we have some fun ideas that we're going to be kicking around, but I think those memberships are really important to us in order for us to celebrate or to continue to advocate for the industry, and also to communicate directly with people who are mad about Wisconsin beer.
Yeah.
Right. And what does that look like now? I'm sorry, Becca. What does that look like now? Because I just signed up again. I was a member.
I saw that.
And then I realized that I lapsed, and I was like, oh no, I need to do this. This is after my conversation with Chris Sance, and he told me again about, the guilds and all that. And I was like, whoa. I was like, man, I let my thing lapse. So I went and got it. I don't really care. To me, it's just more about supporting the cause. And I don't know, to me, it's just like, I feel it's almost like giving you guys a couple, pints. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Becca, you had a follow up to what Mark said, and I cut you off.
No, I was just kind of saying yes to what Mark said. But I mean, it's just really one of the things for me is like educating people on just what the guild is. And, when I first started posting on social media, I would post a picture of a beer, and it'd be obviously a Wisconsin beer. And I wouldn't really say much about the beer. It was just like, hey, celebrate, shopping local, and people would be like, hey, I want to buy that beer. Do you sell it at this store? And I'm like, we're not a brewery. So I knew I had to really explain what we were. And, and I think part of that explanation that I put out there, it's hopefully welcoming people to come in and join us as members, because it's so important. It's just that extra step to supporting local. And, the people that are shopping right now and going to the, pickups and the getting the going shopping. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
They're visiting their breweries. They're trying to like show their support, and this is just another way to show support for your favorite brewery.
Absolutely, it's a different way. So then, part of how that looks is and what I mean how that looks is like being a not brewer member of your organization. I believe that there's an app involved in all this. I don't know which one of you guys want to talk about that.
Oh, the app.
There is. Yeah, I mean it's been a little challenging because especially now, because you can't actually go to a brewery
right.
like you could before.
Right.
Mark, we also have some issues.
No, but hold on. Let's think about it. Like the problem with some of this discussion is clearly like I want to look at a post-pandemic world. So I want to look like what we were last year this time. So I not only do I feel you and hear you about that, but I'm pretty sure like, not that we don't, everybody gets it, but ultimately I kind of want to hear if you guys could tell us like, if once we go back, what does the app look like?
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. So, well hopefully version 2.0 becomes a thing. The original was just kind of a collaboration with a software developer in Wausau that was looking for a project to do that they could call a Wisconsin project. And naturally, at the time, there was a chance encounter from the president of the Brewers Guild at the time, was Mark Butera at Oso Brewing Company. He was looking for somebody to develop an app. And the cost of developing a dedicated standalone app was a little prohibitive, but somehow he had a chance encounter with this group, and they decided that they would come up with this Wisconsin Tap Chaser mobile app that you would, for our members like Greg Washington, would go to a brewery, and that mobile app has coupons on the screen that when you go there, you say, hey, I got a coupon for $1 off a beer. and then all you do is just redeem it on the mobile app. Great in concept. The challenge for us was just making sure that frontline brewery staff knew how to recognize how the customer interaction works. So we have a little work to do on that angle. But the idea is, rather than send you a bunch of paper coupons in the mail, which is what we used to do.
Yes, you did.
We use the magic. We use the magic of the internet. Yeah, I mean, it was an effort to modernize, and there are a lot of other things that mobile app can do. Is like if you're, for example, if you were at the Dell's Rare Barrel Affair and you're a member, you can come up to the Brewers Guild booth there and say, "Hey, I got a little coupon here to get some free stuff." And if you show me that coupon and we redeem it on the spot, I'm going to give you some free stuff. So there are rewards and perks for being a membership, or for being a member. The rewards and perks far outweigh what the actual cost of your membership is. But it's a way to encourage you to go visit breweries, go visit beer events where Wisconsin Brewers Guild has a presence. And I think the future of that mobile app hopefully has a little bit more, has more engagement options that I don't want to get into too much until I can talk to developers and find out if we can actually pull it off.
Right. You don't want to say too much here.
Yeah. But it's a cool, and it's location aware, so it always knows where the nearest Wisconsin Brewers Guild member brewery is. So even if I'm, the Brewers Association has me in Washington, D.C. to go talk to our senators and Congress critters, I can pull up that Tap Chaser app and know that the closest brewery to me is like 1,500 whatever miles away, and it'll tell me exactly how to get there. So
it's like a dating app for beer.
It is, yes.
But anyway. Probably blue jacket, but
yes.
Oh man. So that is fantastic to know. Not only that you guys, obviously apps kind of always work in progress, but an organization that is, well, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, limited in resources, that really kind of stretches. I just assume you are. Again, I could be wrong, but I just assume. But that that stretches the the availability of what you can do, and then again, I've worked for I believe I worked for organizations like you guys where there are like 4 people running around doing everything, and it's kind of hard. I could be wrong, but you guys could set the record straight.
No. Anybody who's ever worked for an organization, I mean, we are a nonprofit organization. So anyone who's ever worked for a nonprofit knows that there's an emphasis on nonprofit. So, but so again, most state brewers we're all a collection of very small breweries with the breweries themselves don't exactly have a lot of resources themselves. So. But we fluctuate. I mean, we've had success with events, and we would build up some momentum. And we finally got to a point where, so prior to me, there was one person who was their first half-time executive director. The workload was clearly more than half-time. So when I came on board, we made it full-time. The workload for just one person was far more than I could handle. I mean, I fancy myself a little bit of a jack of all trades, but I stink at marketing. That's not something that is my strong suit. So, our resources, we were building, we were on a nice slow build and doing pretty well. So we got to a point where we could bring Rebecca on board right at the time where all of our events get canceled. And so, and we're, like all kinds of people all over the world are in the same boat. So this is not a woe is us kind of story. We're like I said earlier, the flip side is that it's forced us to tap into some our more creative side and think about how do we get through this period of time, and then what do events look like in the future? Because the traditional beer festival where you're handing a glass back and forth is probably not something that people are going to be comfortable with for a very long time. And frankly, a lot of brewers are not going to be comfortable being on the other side of that table as well. So our job now, and I'm grateful that it's a team of 2 with great support from member breweries, figuring out how this part of the beer world is going to change and how we are going to shape it in ways that is productive, fun, and sort of kind of takes us back to our original purpose, is growing Wisconsin beer, promoting Wisconsin beer, and advocating for Wisconsin breweries. So we have some fun projects that we've been able to kick around, and while it's discouraging, we didn't have the opportunity to kind of like launch into what we really envisioned. I'm excited about where we're going to go going forward too.
That sounds great. So it's funny because when I referenced that time where I believe it was 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, or it was a previous governor, I'm pretty sure. I know it was a previous governor when we had that dust up with the legislative, and they were adding stuff. During that time, Mark, I when we were engaging back and forth, and what I mean by we, I mean not us, but we were engaging back. I was engaging back and forth with representatives. I was tagging them on Twitter. I was Googling. I was retweeting the ones I liked. I was arguing with the ones I didn't. I was just all over the place. And what I realized during that time was that Wisconsin didn't have a beer pact. They didn't have a political action committee. And
right.
I was this close, no BS, to sending you an email asking you if you were interested, and if you were interested in starting a pack, or what the guild thought about a pack, and what you guys would have thought if I would have started one. I was really so angry at that political play. And I was really angry that it felt like it was that easy for them just to do, and like
sure.
It just angered me beyond. So I was just, sometimes you get angry or you get either happy or something, and you have this idea and you're like, yes, I'm gonna run with it. And then once that emotion stops, the kind of the oomph of that idea kind of goes. So once it got resolved, and once I was like, oh, it's settled, and quote settled, it's not really ever settled. That's the answer.
It's never settled.
that is the answer. But once it quote got settled in my mind, I just like, with all due respect, most Americans, I just went back to life. And I just didn't, I wasn't concerned about it anymore because, quote, in my head, it went away. But ultimately, when I come and do this research, and I was talking to Rebecca about coming on, and I started doing research on you guys, and actually seeing what the hell was going on, what you're doing. I saw the beer pack pop up, and I was like, yes. So that really, I was like, yes, because I felt that I was like in a good place as far as seeing where we should go with all this. So obviously I want to hear as much as I can about this.
Sure. So the uncomfortable side of beer is, I kind of spend a lot more of my time in the uncomfortable world. So kind of taking a step back to like when you describe that feeling of anger that you felt like small breweries were being picked on. I had a perfectly good life as a biomedical researcher at the University of Wisconsin. So I was doing molecular biology research. I was doing stem cell research, but homebrewing was my hobby. And over time, through Great Taste in the Midwest, I got to know a lot of the brewers in the state. And the more you knew about what they were actually doing, the more unfair things seemed, and the more rigged or stacked against them things really seemed to be. So I kind of felt that same kind of anger, like these guys are literally doing that quintessential American thing of creating something new and reinventing an entire industry. But nobody really knew it or understood it. So to talk about the legislative climate, regardless of what governor or, when it was, the reality is there are many people, policymakers in particular, who just don't know much about the craft beer world. And that has changed. We've been very effective at changing that and getting that message across. But this was something that was completely unfamiliar to a lot of people. When you would say beer, people would think of Pabst and Miller and things like that, which is really what defined Wisconsin beer. Our challenge was redefining it, right? So like other states, if I said Arizona beer, and no offense to my friends in Arizona, Indiana beer, there wasn't anything that would jump out at you as like, oh, it's them. But if I said Wisconsin beer, people would instantly just rattle off Pabst, Schlitz, Blatz, and all those old school breweries. So our challenge, different from other states, was redefining craft beer. or redefining our beer industry, and doing it to policymakers in particular. So on the political side, which is the uncomfortable side, nobody likes to engage in politics because beer is fun and we like to talk about beer in happy terms. But the reality is, as Rebecca's heard me say this many times, and I say this to a lot of brewers, you have the distinction of operating businesses that have not one, but two amendments to the United States Constitution that deal specifically to the products that you make. So when you opened a brewery, you got into politics, whether you like it or not. And beer has been very political for over 100 years. I mean, we prohibited beer, for Pete's sake. So those are things that we kind of have to keep in mind. And when we talk about political action committees, nobody likes the idea of money in politics. We don't like the idea of money in politics, but money is in politics. And you know, you can't just unilaterally surrender by saying we don't do that. You know, in reality, it's given us a little bit of credibility. People pay attention to us a little bit more if they think that we have a little clout. And we have built some clout, and we intend to use it to the best of our ability and get some things done in the next legislative session.
Yes. Thank you.
All for the benefit of consumers.
Oh, well, and brewers, and I love to say, Mark, I know you agree. I know you agree that brewers are you know, our generation's mom and pop, because everything else, mom and pop shop, everything else has been Walmarted or Amazon or whatever, taken over by big corporations. And you know, we have so many breweries that you know, we were afraid at one point, but we have so many breweries that big beer can't buy them all. So now what? And
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, a lot of the regulatory issues that brewers face were designed for an era where large breweries could dominate retailers. So it was important to protect small retailers, and it still is to this day important to protect small retailers. What has happened is that the script flipped, where now you have small breweries but very large retailers. So you could make the argument in some cases that retailers have been overprotected, because why do these big box retailers need protections from little breweries? They don't. Actually, it's the other way around in some cases. So it's, you know, things have changed so much that what we aim to do is make policymakers aware that things are not always going to be the same. They will change, and we have to be able to adapt with those changes as they occur. And we still need to protect small retailers from big brewers, but that's not us. That's not us. We can't dominate retail in any way, shape, or form. So our goal is to have small independent retailers that thrive, small independent breweries that thrive. And, you know, big businesses can exist too, and we'll all get along just fine.
Yep. So I'm going to show this page. So, just like any other, political action committee, Let me do this talking, Mark. If you want to tell me if I'm wrong, cool. But I'm going to do this shit because I believe. Now,
I have confidence in you.
Get it?
Well, you're here. You're here to tell me if I'm wrong and everything. You're here to correct everything I'm about to say, because I'm not a journalist and I'm just a hack vlogger who's very, very passionate about this. But just like any other political action committee that anybody is very passionate about, they need money. So here you go to their website, you click on Beer Pack. They tell you exactly. You know, Mark summed it up nice, but right here, if you look at it, it tells you exactly why they started it, why it's important, the reason behind it, and you can buy a pint, you can buy 2 pints, you can buy a whole damn keg. You can just do whatever you need to do. You can do it now. You can do it post-pandemic. You can do it whenever you have the funds. If you're a Wisconsin beer drinker like me, you're passionate about whoever, whether it be Oso, Three Sheeps, Ale Asylum, New Glarus, I mean, Third Space, who cares? You, in my opinion, should be able to keep this in mind as something that we can do for our breweries to protect them in the long term. just in case when these things bubble up. Sometimes, especially in politics, the things bubble up and then everybody's ready to respond. But you, in my opinion, being a political guy, I love politics. I'm all over it. You have to be preparing before that comes. You can't just be always reacting. And this is how the Brewers in Wisconsin prepare for these, my language, not theirs, for political bullshit that comes down the road that we can't like stop. So yes, I'm on a damn political rant, and I don't really care because this shit is important to many, many industries. Many people are involved. Many people are, uh, depend on what happens with their brewery to feed their kids, to do all that. So, it's not just me wanting my stupid Hopalicious for $6 for $1 a can. It's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it goes way more. And don't even get me started on the economic benefits that breweries have brought. I mean, I could probably get Mark to talk about 3 hours on that one. But so my rant is almost done. If you guys want to jump on it and add anything or say I'm wrong, but I think this is a very, very worthy thing. And if anybody's going to, in my opinion, Mark can tell me, and Mark and Rebecca tell me I'm wrong. If you need to funnel or you want to funnel any money, the beer pack is a good place to look and to start.
Well said. I will point out that in case anyone was curious why that one number was 125.29, we kind of use that as that's the chapter in state statutes that deals directly with breweries, is chapter 125.29. So that's why we kind of stuck that rather random number in there as an option for contributions. But what we tried to do on that page is explain in human terms that, like I said before, not a lot of us like politics. We don't like to mix our pleasure with politics, but the reality is that's the world we live in today. And we tried to give a human element to why we had to create this pack. And it isn't just because we are demanding things. There are simple things like the fact that a husband and wife can't own their own businesses when one of them owns a brewery and one of them owns a bar. That's preposterous, right? You can't. Yeah, it's explained on that page, and we could go for hours and getting into the details of unintended consequences of gradual changes to state statute that have negatively affect normal things. Like if I worked for a brewery and my spouse works for a bar, that's illegal. One of us is illegally employed. And it seems absurd that this is true. This is actually true. These are the things that we are trying to raise awareness for. And so,
wow.
It's just like you said, for us to be a little bit proactive and not to like always be sounding the alarm bells when things are going wrong. These are the things that are helping us to have a seat at the table, so the alarm bells aren't going off. We can finally put a stop to irrational behaviors and work together collaboratively with other industry members to just fix simple things. We're not asking for the moon. We're just, the idea that simple things like the idea that a brew pub, think about this, a brew pub is capped at the amount of beer that it can make, but the largest brewery in the state of Wisconsin, in the city of Milwaukee, that has existed since the 1800s, has no caps whatsoever, right? Can you imagine operating a restaurant where, you are capped at 1,000 hamburgers, and once you get to 1,000 hamburgers, you have to stop making and selling hamburgers. But a chain restaurant can continue making as many hamburgers as they want. Like, somebody has to explain to me on what planet that makes sense. Those are the kinds of things that we're fighting to change and raise awareness for.
Yeah, and people assume too, people assume that Wisconsin is a beer-friendly state, and in many ways it is, but in many ways it is not. Legislatively, it's not, and people don't understand that. It's funny, but
I think it's due to a lot of misunderstandings. I think, and it's easily been portrayed as a Brewers against the taverns kind of thing, which is completely the opposite. Actually, we rely on them, and we have great relationships with a lot of retailers, bars and taverns and restaurants around the state. But it's portrayed to policymakers that there's some kind of fierce battle between the two, which is completely false and doesn't make any sense. But those are the things, those are the PR things that we kind of fight against, and we'll keep fighting the good fight.
So Rebecca, my last question for both of you is, how can we, and we're probably going to get off on a little tangent here, but how can we help breweries during this time?
So we, right in the beginning, like when all this was kind of going down in March, I realized that a lot of the breweries were doing to go and pick up, and I thought, how can I share what all the breweries are doing? And we even had people, messaging us on social media, like, what's everyone doing? And it's like, whoa, there's almost 200 breweries. We don't know what everyone's doing. So I created a beer map. So it's just a Google map that I went in and pinpointed, basically created a Google form and had breweries go in and tell me what they're doing. So it lives on our website. You can go in and it's pretty up to date. I'm trying to keep in touch with breweries as they change what they're offering, but it's a good place to start. It shows the state and it shows all the breweries that filled out the form and what they're offering. So essentially people can just go on there and see where can I pick up beer from my favorite brewery. And if your favorite brewery isn't offering pickup, go to grocery stores, go to liquor stores, buy their beer. And if they're not doing anything like that, a lot of them are doing gift certificates online. So you could go in and purchase a gift certificate for when things change a little bit. It's just kind of simple. It's almost like just kind of looking up what your breweries are doing and just participating in that. Just pretty simple.
Are you seeing it there?
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
Okay, and then you answered Joel's question.
Exactly, right on cue.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Excellent. Great.
Yeah, and there are other breweries that aren't represented on this list, but it's hard to get everyone to participate in a little Google form when they're, hemorrhaging and freaking out and just trying to figure out what to do. So we were pretty impressed that we got, I think there's almost 70 breweries that participated, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and Mark also mentioned that one of his answers earlier, he was talking about I think you guys, about how you guys were innovative and how you guys had, again, to change your model. And to me, that has been one of the fascinating things about the pandemic, is seeing the model change now, of breweries and going to curbside. And we have, I have a couple of great examples. We have Ale Asylum here. You guys are obviously familiar with them. They're doing curbside and they're doing takeout, and their curbside is very interesting. You have to, you get online. You can only order online through the Beer Me app. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. I am chasing the guy. I am going to start chasing the guy who developed that, so I can.
Mark can help you with that.
Okay,
I can absolutely help you with that.
Great.
So here's a fun little story. How that came to be, actually. So one of the great frustrations that we had is that, and this kind of goes to the political legislative side, is that there is literally a statute that mandates by law a face-to-face transaction when you buy beer. It literally is a statute, says face-to-face. So the challenge that I had was trying to convince policymakers that we should probably be a little bit more flexible about that face-to-face transaction when face-to-face is spreading a disease. So I really, it was discouraging that I couldn't really make a lot of headway with that very quickly. And one of the quirks in there is that because of that face-to-face sales requirement, breweries were not allowed to accept payments online for advanced purchases. The transaction must occur face-to-face at the brewery. Ale Asylum, since you use them as an example, they had employees that were very concerned about that their employees didn't feel safe, and the owners at Ale Asylum wanted to make sure that their employees did feel safe, and what measures could they take to make sure that everybody was going to be okay. So Beer Me, actually, I forget how I came upon them, but But I reached out to them and explained to them, like, we have this quirk in Wisconsin state law that mandates face-to-face transaction. What I learned from our regulator, the Department of Revenue, is that the QR code that when you buy digital beer festival tickets, that's actually compliant with the face-to-face sales requirement, because even though you purchased online in advance, the transaction is showing that QR code and having it scanned. Okay, how can we use that in the pandemic environment? And with the help of Alesheim, they actually came up with this concept. What if I have something that I can just hold up, like a QR code, hold it up to my window in my car with the window closed, and the employee on the other side can scan it through the window, and there's literally no interaction, human to human interaction, that is not separated by glass. And that's the concept we came up with. So these guys at Beer Me, it took them like a week, and they implemented this QR code system and made it work for us. So I've got multiple breweries that are using them now. And it was a group of breweries out in Maryland, actually, that had some kind of association with a programmer out there that came up with this thing. So this coming week, we're going to be doing a thing out at Wisconsin Brewing Company, which is a beer can sale, where that Beer Me app is used to do a drive-through can sale.
Yes. Again, the innovation that I'm seeing from breweries, just across the board too, not just Wisconsin, it's just amazing about how. And I gotta say, while we're still in Alesheim, it's just fantastic. I haven't done it, but my lady has done it. She told me she just drives up, they put it out there, and even the sign says, "Don't get out of your car until we flee." But then also, Mark, I'm not sure if you know. Before I let you go, then we have Alesheim, who's doing curbside. We have Parched Eagle, who's doing curbside, and in takeout. We have Giant Jones, who's doing case sales and no contact, but there's I hear a wonderful system. We have Working Draft Brewing Company, who's doing a lottery. We have a new brewery in Madison that's doing a lottery. So it's just very interesting to see how, because breweries all have their own different business plans and locations and different quirky ways that they work. And that's why we love going to 6 of them in a day, because they're all unique. And you're seeing that in the pandemic. And that's part of what makes me feel really good about how many we're going to see on the other side is the innovativeness. And, because if they're being innovative with all this, they're being innovative on the back end too, hopefully, finances, and hopefully they're getting their landlords on board. And everybody's landlord is not getting paid. Everybody's landlord is not getting paid. So can we all, can we all give some kindness to this? And I'm hoping that will be the end result of all this. But I do have a question before I let y'all go. Do you guys see any chance that we'll have beer deliveries in Wisconsin? And the thing about Wisconsin too is that some, not Wisconsin, everywhere, some of these places have been laxing rules. So I don't know, Wisconsin's one of them, but some of them are like, oh yeah, we can, because I know in New Jersey they did this. They're like, oh yeah, you guys can deliver. And then like 3 days later, the governor pulled the rug from them and said, no, you can't deliver anymore. So there is this pandemic thing where people are just making rules up or just dismissing rules. So this is very interesting to see like what jurisdictions are just saying, hey, you guys can deliver. Hey, no, you guys can't do that. You can't do this. So anyway, getting back to Landon's question, do you guys see is there any deliveries going on, or do you see any chance of it? Or?
There are not. And related to what you just brought up regarding deliveries in some other states, it depends on how their state regulatory agencies are set up. So the example in Wisconsin is that everything that the rules that the breweries in Wisconsin operate by are statutory, which means they're laws. You can't just go and ignore laws. You can't change laws. A law is a law. Other states have regulatory boards or alcohol beverage commissions that have the ability to be flexible. There are pros and cons to both types of models. But I think that's where some of the confusion lied, is that other states had the regulatory authority to change rules, but Wisconsin did not. So to answer the question, is there a chance that we will have beer deliveries here in Wisconsin? I think there is a desire to do so. There is also a strong opposition by some industry members who just don't feel that it's appropriate. We shall see. I guess ultimately, when the consumer wants something, the consumer gets it. So it depends on how badly consumers want it going forward. But as far as will we see it anytime soon, I'm not confident unless consumers demand it.
Rebecca, Mark, do you guys? I said one last question, but I fibbed. I could sit here all day and ask you questions. I'm that question guy.
Yeah,
I have them all. Yeah, it's crazy. So one thing that I hear a lot in these circles and doing these conversations and in my beer group and all around is people wanting the desire, or people having the desire to see stuff like curbside and takeout continue after the pandemic. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I personally think it's kind of cool and kind of interesting to see, the breweries doing this and having success. And I think it could be this really fun way to do launches, and when they have like small batch beers, and it could be this really fun addition to their normal business model. But again, I think it's going to depend on the breweries, and the breweries that embraced it and find success. Some may feel it's just annoying and they don't want to deal with it. But if you're set up right now and it's working, why not continue to offer it?
I agree. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, and I understand. Well, there's two sides to the story, clearly, because obviously brewers want, and breweries want you to go in and, buy food and to, hang out and socialize, and the longer you stay, the more you buy, and all that wonderful stuff. And I'm not against that at all. And I can't wait to go back and doing that. But there are some Fridays or Saturdays where, I go down to Octopi Brewing, and this place, I can't even walk. I can't even get a parking spot from and it's out in the middle of nowhere, and I can't even get a parking spot. So those are times where I would love to just be able to pull up my app, be like, all right, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Can you guys just put it in my trunk? I just want to go home. I just, hey, and put some of those wings too that you guys make right back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same model as like with Uber Eats and Grubhub. It's that same kind of thing. I mean, restaurants do that, so why can't breweries offer the same thing? And I mean, they're doing it now, so why not continue?
Well, and one last, man, I got so many things for you. But one of the things that is amazing is that breweries, and you guys know this, breweries have taken their game up with food and the restaurants, so much so that my lady, who is not a beer drinker, says that, and I quote, she is not a beer drinker, and I quote, the best food is from breweries. I don't want to eat at a non-brewery. She said this, and she said this during the pandemic. So this is during a time where we're not able to go and literally sit and have food right after it's made, which everybody knows is the best. Generally speaking, that's the best way you can eat any food is, it's made, it's delivered to you, it's hot, fresh, all that. It's not the best when you have to put it in the styrofoam, drive it 20 minutes, get home. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the best presentation. And my family has been loving Carbon 4, Ale Asylum, Great Dane. If I don't mention Vintage, I will be. I mean, we have been loving it as far as the food that there have been, that is offered to us even during this pandemic. And breweries have just been amazing about that. Generally, some of them just can't or don't deal with food, but the ones that are doing it are just killing it.
Oh yeah, they're killing it. I mean, I miss Taco Tuesdays at Working Draft so much. We would go every single Tuesday. My husband and I we're on a bocce ball league, and after bocce, we go to Working Draft. And even in the cold months, we were like, let's still go to Working Draft, even though we're not playing bocce. And we miss it so much. And they have, the pimento cheese and the warm biscuits and salted chocolate chip cookies. I mean, it's just so good. And then their beer is so fantastic. I mean, we miss those guys. And we miss just going in and seeing their faces and being able to, give them a high five or a hug. I mean, we just miss stuff like that.
Yep. So, Mark, I didn't ask you this. I promise this is the last question because I don't know if I mentioned, but
It's okay. I got time. I got time for you.
I'm a big space head, and I want to get out and see the launch, the SpaceX launch. So I have to. So
wait, you're a big what?
Yeah, what?
I'm sorry. I went to school to be an aerospace engineer. I just could not afford the I couldn't afford to continue. It was like so much money, and my mother and I couldn't get the loan, so I stopped being an aerospace engineer. It was kind of my thing. So I'm a big space head. I'm SpaceX and NASA. So there's a big launch today. SpaceX is launching 2 astronauts up to the space station. It's the first time a private organization is launching NASA astronauts. It's going to happen in 15 minutes. So that was kind of my limit, because I'm like, I'm looking over here. I'm like, my space.
You're like, I got to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen, I would have you guys for 2 hours. I know you guys don't have 2 hours. I'm not paying you, so I just wanted to show my gratitude to you for just being here. And I'm pretty sure, I'll see in the comments, but I'm pretty sure you guys put at least some people at ease a little bit about where we are, because everybody's really just worried about what's going on with the breweries. So Mark, I didn't get to ask you your tips on how we can help the Brewers Guild and breweries during this pandemic, and I promise that's my last question.
Hey, I'll come back anytime, and it's fun to talk with you. Also, just so you know, I'm looking at you right now and thinking we could put you in that Dells River Fair logo, just like it looks right now on the screen.
Yeah,
so like you can be there. You go. We're going to change the logo for the future. So, Rebecca nailed it. It's just, Facebook user says they canceled the launch today.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Okay. So now you guys stay. So we'll be here another 2 hours. Gotcha.
Rebecca nailed it. Just keep buying Wisconsin beer, enjoying Wisconsin beer. Hit up the retailers too. I mean, there's the hard part is bars and taverns and restaurants that rely on beer sales. Keg beer sales, of course, are really struggling right now. So that's going to be the hard part is making sure we help get them back on their feet. So, as with any local small business, they need your support now more than ever. Just buy their products, buy their products, buy their products.
And I have one last thing to talk about is a campaign that we're working on. You'll see it. It should be like the end of the month, maybe the beginning of June. I know it's like right around the corner. But we have a Wisconsin Sayings T-shirt campaign. Because I'm not from here. So when I moved here and just like listening to Carrie talk and different coworkers talk, I was like, you guys say some weird shit. So the number one is "ope sorry," and I now say "ope" all the time. So we have T-shirts that different breweries have been able to. They're going to be selling them as well. So everyone just kind of be looking out for the "ope" T-shirt design that's coming out very soon. It's a fundraiser for the breweries and the guild. So I think about 10 different breweries are going to be selling them. We'll be selling them. And it's green and it has like a beer can on it. And it's kind of opening and it sprays and it has a little bubble that says, "Oh." And we're going to have more things like that. And it's really funny you're wearing that shirt, because one of my ideas is to do "got beer or no," because one of my coworkers, old coworkers, used to end all of his questions with "or no." And I'm like, what is that? But I love it. So we're going to say "got beer or no."
All right.
So
if you don't mind,
coming up.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Rebecca, if you can hit me up when you guys hit me up when that launches,
okay,
so I can put it out to my 3 followers, and we can one of them.
Hell yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure you get a shirt.
So I would be so lastly, I just showed on the screen here. Let me put it back up here. One of the ways to get you guys obviously is on your Twitter. Rebecca, where else can we find you?
Facebook, down here, Instagram.
Wisconsin Brewers Guild is the link.
Yes, it's all the same. Whoever set it all up for the guild, Mark Butera, I think they did a really good job of keeping it consistent with all of our handles.
Okay, excellent. Any last thing? I don't have to run off for lunch. So
I mean, just it's always important to shop local. It's just especially important now. You know, these breweries, they don't just make beer. They are, you know, your friends, your neighbors. They bring so much to the community, and it's such an important time to be focusing on local everything, honestly. And a lot of the breweries are partnering with local farms and local food vendors, and you know, keeping
yeah,
that same family
yes.
mentality
Yeah.
with other local businesses, and
Mhm.
it's just super important.
I heard nothing but good things about that drive-through they have in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and there are some here too that are like little mini farmers markets here in
Little mini farmers
Madison and
market.
Sun Prairie.
Yeah, and Carbon 4 has a one that's moving around. So
Yeah, they are killing it. They're kicking ass. They
they are.
totally like were innovators with that, and they've just been running with it, and they're just working their asses off.
Yeah, and again, I'm hearing. I had Jim Grolson on from Parch Eagle, and I don't know. He said it live on the stream, so I guess I can say it. He says that they're doing well enough to make it through. And what is the driver of it? He says is his regulars. He says it's the people that I saw all the time before this. They're still here, and whether they're curbside in it or just running in and out to grab beer, they're keeping us. He said he has at the point now. I mean, again, he's a small. As you guys know, he's a smaller one. But hey, we all have problems, whether it be bigger scale or smaller scale. And the fact that he's able to continue to move beer like he says he's doing, and his regulars are, supporting him. I don't know. I hope that this is something that everybody's seeing as far as the Brewers go. So
yeah, I hope so too, and I hope the breweries, continue to keep putting out really good content, because I share whatever they put out. I share nonstop. I mean, I could just sit for 2 hours and just like share, because they're all doing such a great job of putting out, what they're doing, what new releases are, and all that is just so important for people to see, because they're on their phones more than ever, and the
right.
more information that they can put out, the better.
Okay, I lied. I got one more question. I'm telling you guys, I could do this all day with you. But have we heard? I don't want any names, but have we heard any brewery closings?
I haven't, but Mark, I don't know if you have.
I'm not aware of any, and I'm not hiding that information. I'm not aware of. So the interesting thing is that a bulk of my time has actually just been having phone conversations with everybody, in frequencies that I've never had before. But I feel like I have a pretty good sense of where everyone is right now, and for the most part, the general consensus seems to be we're hanging on. We're not doing great, but we're hanging on. And the biggest challenge, I think, has been that shift from keg to pretty much all bottling can. So right when this came down, this was, right at the time where breweries were ramping up with a lot of their busy season beers. So they had coolers full of kegs, and suddenly those keg orders just fell off a cliff. So they got coolers full of kegged beer that they don't know what to do with. So that's kind of complicated things. So shifting to that model, especially for some breweries that don't do a lot of bottling or canning, they really had to shift on a dime. One of the things we're trying to do is help a few breweries out that really don't have a lot of packaging capability, but have a lot of keg beer that can't be easily repackaged, is filling up crowler machine, the crowler machines that everybody's pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
We're trying to bounce around, do some. I mentioned Wisconsin Brewing Company coming up, and we'll try and partner up with some other breweries just to put some of that beer into those large format cans. We're calling them whisk cans. There's a 32-ounce crowlers, and then there's a 25.4-ounce can that is a quirk of Minnesota law, but we're going to steal it and call it whisk cans. At least to fill some of those cans up from the tap, and that craft beer consumers are pretty smart. They know that this is beer that needs to be drunk or consumed pretty quickly. So yeah, I mean, just new creative ways of getting beer into those cans and out to customers and clearing out cooler space is a big deal right now. But they're all hanging on. They're just hanging on.
And I didn't even. Of course, again, I think you say something and then my mind just goes crazy. And I just think that like the biggest style is IPA. And if you have a bunch of IPAs in a keg, you're gonna have to move that soon, or that IPA is not gonna be the IPA that we all love. And that's
true.
just wow, man. Whew, heavy. I didn't even, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Again, it's just hard to wrap around. It's hard to wrap your head around just all the, you said it too before, Mark, like, everybody's going through something with this, and it's just hard to
Yeah.
wrap your head around what actually everybody's going through unless you really put yourself in that place. And I've been trying to put myself in the place of a brewer or brewery owner, and there's these things that you just mentioned right there that just like fall through the cracks of my thinking, and I just don't know unless it's really put in front of your face. So this is why I haven't been on this, but this is why we all have to be kind to each other, because we don't know what everybody else is doing, whether it be business, personal, or anything. We have to. You don't know what everybody else is going through. So be kind and buy local, and buy your local breweries, your local. I mean, again, some of the biggest supporters of breweries are, taverns like the Malt House, and taverns like Barley Pop, and taverns like, even Mr. Blue's Tap House, Dexter's. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's 60 of them in Milwaukee, so and there's 40 of them in Green Bay probably. So it just goes on and on. But I want to thank you guys for giving me the time and giving us the time as Wisconsin beer drinkers to inform us on what's going on, what you guys are doing, how you're supporting them, and all that. I love the work you guys do. And I can't say enough about how I'm enthusiastic and how you guys got me a little bit pumped today. At least for, at least the short term. I'll probably be more mad tomorrow, but it's fine.
It's fine. It's a roller coaster. You don't know how you're going to feel every day you wake up. How am I going to feel? I don't know.
This is true. So final last words, and I promise.
Thanks for having us on here. Everyone continue to shop local. And if you're drinking local beer, take a picture, tag that brewery, and share that shit. It's important. It matters. Share what you're drinking, share what you're buying, share where you're shopping. It means a lot to that brewery, and people need to know. Shopping local is number one right now.
There you
go.
Mark?
No. Yeah, but you say all the right things, and then I got to say the boring stuff. But no, I'm
whatever. Mark is very good at marketing. He's full of crap.
Yeah.
Well,
he's good.
I'm good at spewing the stuff out, but execution is not my strong suit at all. But you hit it on the head. I mean, you don't know what other people are going through. So like right now, we're going through this reopening, right? And I think I'm gratified that our brewers are being very careful and very deliberate about it. A lot of them aren't fully comfortable with the idea of having people in their tap rooms yet. And part of that is that it kind of takes away from the taproom experience. Like we provide experiences. When you talked about going to the brewery, the takeout and curbside service is great, but we all crave that, hanging out in the tap room, and everybody knows this, but we got to do it smartly and wisely. And I'm confident that our brewers and brew pubs are cognizant of that. And, but you don't know like what, we're going to have people coming into our spaces now. Some people are going to be more comfortable than others. And I think even as beer consumers, we have to understand that we're not all on the same comfort level. And we all have different ideas about how we should be conducting ourselves right now. We're all just going to have to take a deep breath through our masks, and just be cognizant that, it's going to be a long time before things get back to normal, but we'll accommodate as best we can.
And looking back to it, really, really, really makes me, what's the word I'm looking for? Respect and appreciate the times that we all had at the brewery that we granted. Maybe not for granted, but it was this every day, and I'm just used to being able to roll up the Giant Jones and get my Weizenbach. I'm used to being able to, after that, hit up Rookie Draft and, what's going on over there. And So now I'm more, I'm actually way more appreciative of that experience. So I,
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys again. It was a fantastic conversation. What did I tell you guys? It'll be a little over an hour. Wow.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Let's do it again, man.
You did nail it. Thank you guys for your time. Again, I can't say enough, and I would love to have you guys back after the pandemic, and we could talk about what's going on. And I'm going to see you guys at the Rare Barrel Fest for sure.
For sure.
You got it.
For sure. And I'm going to talk to you too because I want to kind of coordinate a little bit more. I need to be able to keep up on what you guys are doing, and I want to spread the word a little bit more. So
Yeah.
we'll talk on the side. I'll hit you in the DMs.
Sweet. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Cheers, man. My pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.
Boom. Yes. That was fantastic. That was fun. I can't say enough. Thanks. Shout out to Carrie Jaworski, who let me talk to his wife, and then Rebecca just ran and was able to get Mark on. So it was great. Our friend Mari Zurahan. Did I say that right? Probably not. She liked it. My launch was canceled, so that's good. Let's see. Tony says a stout with vanilla and ice cream float sounds. Come on, Tony. That's not right. That sounds amazing. So, somebody said they would settle for a beer and ice cream truck. I can't see who said this. Who said this? Let's see here. I can't see. This thing won't let me say. Well, somebody wants a beer and food truck, ice cream truck. That sounds good. Right. Oh, let's see. Somebody says I'm doing great, Greg. Good stuff. Thanks, Landon. Yeah. You know how I feel about doing this sometimes. I usually was nervous before and then I'm happy afterwards, so it's great. I like them both. Why not? There is no why not, Tony. It's just really good. And I kind of want one now, and I don't have the ice cream. I do have the stout, though. Right? Any kind of stout, right? Oh, it's vanilla ice cream and any kind of stout. So I have the stout, but not the vanilla ice cream. But so the next time I will be on this will be with my friend Doug on Friday. We will have a fun show with Renee Pickup. She is an artist. She's an artist. She's an author, editor, all that wonderful stuff. It's gonna be fun. She's an activist. Punk lady. So it's just gonna be fun. Fridays are fun, and really, that's what it's all about. So, hey, Carrie, yeah, it was fun, man. And the wife's a rock star, but you already know that. So good times. I already actually talking on one side during the show. I was like, oh man, your wife's so fun to talk to. It's great. So Tony, 9 Eastern on Fridays is 8 Central, but you're Eastern, so 9 Eastern. Brothers and Brews on Friday. So I'm going to wrap this up, and man, it's hot here. Woo! Go have I don't know. I ran out of beer during the show, so it was a good one, man. It was one of these. I was going to ask him about this, but I forgot to. It was one of these fuck COVID beers. So, cheers. I will see you guys. What's today? Wednesday? Yeah, I'll see you Friday. Cheers. Enjoy. Boom.